This episode is sponsored by JDAQA Software Testing, your scalable solution for manual, automated, security, and performance testing. Check us out at jdaqa.com. And with that, let's get on with the show.
This is The First Customer, hosted by Jay Agner.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the First Customer Podcast. My name is Jay Agner. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Brett Tiagwad. He is the founder and CEO at Elevated Angles, a man I've chased around for a long time to get on this show. Brett, how are you, my friend?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm good. We will start with the fact that you are attending an event this weekend. Do you want to tell everybody what that event is?
Yeah, going down to the Super Bowl.
There it is. The Super Bowl.
For the Eagles win.
That's right. No doubts. We were saying before the show, we may look at this by the time it airs and either be really happy or really sad. So I think we're going to be good, though. I'm very confident. So tell me, brother, where did you grow up, and did that have any impact on you being an entrepreneur later in life?
Yeah, I grew up in South Jersey, so Mount Laurel area. I'd say I was always an entrepreneur at heart, growing up and doing side jobs and landscaping jobs and snow removal jobs. So yeah, I always had the itch for sure.
Was Elevated Angles the first business you started?
I would say legitimate. Yeah. when I was 15 or so had my own landscaping company. I didn't have an LLC or anything.
Well, I hear that story a lot, though. There's a lot of most entrepreneurs start young for sure. Well, you didn't start out being an entrepreneur. I saw something about being a finance guy, and then I thought I saw consulting. Was it kind of like a natural progression out? Like, how did you go from, working a job to starting your own business and then just being your own boss?
It's a long story. I'll try and keep it concise, but I went to school for finance. My family's in insurance, and, so I got a degree in finance at SJU. And, when I came out, that was kind of the path, right? Like the 9-to-5 job, get a job in insurance or finance, or there was no true, this is what you need to do. But, from a financial standpoint, I was in finance. I was not in marketing. I was not in food marketing. So pretty much what ended up happening was got a job, went through some life events. I am currently 9 years in recovery. So,
nice.
Yeah. So I had some trials and road bumps. I got a few different jobs and fired and so on and so forth. I ended up going to getting treatment, came out, and my mom passed away. So after my mom passed away, that's when I bought a drone. And I bought a drone because I wanted to go out and just kind of be by myself and have something to do other than, kind of taking your mind off things. So bought a drone. When I started using the drone, a light bulb went off and was like, this was back, in 2016 when you saw a drone in the air, you were, like, what's going on? But bought a drone, saw the use cases from a business standpoint, and, pretty much just started an LLC, kind of starting off just like selling photos here and there. And then I really went the Instagram route. So not to make this too long, but I got a job in insurance. So I was in marketing and insurance. And then at the same time, I was working my Elevated Angles job. So on nights, weekends, whenever I could do it, it was like a side hustle. And through that side hustle, I pretty much just built it on the nights and weekends up to, a true revenue generator where I felt like I could leave my company that I was at. But no background in photography, no background in videography. You don't see that in this space a lot, which, is interesting. Whether it's good or bad, I don't know. But I've always had a creative eye. And, when I started seeing what drones could see and record, that's really what, I love flying drones. Not a huge ground camera guy. I like being in the air. I like to skydive. I'm an adrenaline type of person. So it kind of gives me that feeling, and I've turned it into a business.
Love that, dude. I
Yeah.
love it too. I love it. It's like such I mean, I take it on every vacation. Just fly it out of the ocean and just, like, hand
Yep.
down and just go along you see sharks and all sorts of just, like, crazy stuff, and I saw dolphins mating last year. I was like, just like, it's just so wild. I feel the same way about flying airplanes. It's incredible. It's just a very freeing experience, but well, first of
That's
all,
kind of what led me though to starting the LLC. Was I was taking him on vacations, and you were
yeah.
getting these awesome shots. And it's like you could sell these like back to the resort or, to whoever. I was like, all right, I'll start an LLC and see where it goes. And yeah.
Well, I'm dying to know. So this is where it really gets exciting for me because I have a bunch of hobbies and astrophotography is a hobby. And I've tried to think about how you monetize something that you can like sell prints or you could do lessons or courses or whatever. And it's just like a very like boring set of things that you could kind of monetize a hobby like that. So I want to hear like, how did you brainstorm it? Like what are some that you tried that didn't work? Like, how did you start getting to the point where you are now where you have a service offering and you have some, where did you start?
Yeah. A lot of trial and error. I went directly at construction because I just saw, um, the use case from a construction standpoint, right? Whether it's just like progress photos or mappings or, safety issues, getting that type of angle from a construction standpoint was really, back then when nobody really had a drone, it was like, oh, wow, we could really use this.
Mhm.
So I went that route first. Pretty hard to get in the door with construction companies, especially ones that you'll find out they don't really have true marketing departments. Like back when I first started this, social media videos weren't really even like a thing. So, you know, these companies didn't even have profiles. Some didn't even believe in it. As you've seen over the course of, 10 years, everybody has a brand on social media now. But back
Mhm.
then, they didn't. So
Right.
um, I went that I went that route, not too successful. I started going the route of the failures, I would say, is like I really thought that there was going to be a bigger market for like public entity business where it's like we have to inspect the beach or we have to inspect, the water towers and the bridges. Like
Mhm.
there's all different laws and rules on when you have to inspect them and how long. And, I was privy to that from the insurance job. And what ended up happening was the townships were just buying their own drones, to see what they wanted to see. And then at the same time, I wasn't like I couldn't give a detailed analysis on like
Right. Right. Right.
what I'm looking at. So it was more so just like sending them footage, and that didn't really go anywhere. I don't think currently to date I have any public entity business, but I know there's a market there for like true surveyors and true like
Mhm.
inspections. But what I found was I had a creative eye, and I spent hours and hours and hours learning from YouTube on how to create really cool videos. And what I mean by that is how to edit. And, editing is a very big part of my business. It's, what's kind of, I'd say, separated myself, from other competitors, not only, flying styles and like actually being on set or being on site and being like, hey, go around this tree or fly over it. That's one part of it. But the other part is, actually editing it. And if you can edit really well, you can make, decent footage look good.
Hmm.
So I spent a lot of hours into that. And why I'm going that way is because I'm pretty much about like, I pretty much went into marketing. So like, instead of, the inspections or like measuring dirt piles or like there's a lot of drone companies that do that and we can do it. It's not a big part of our business,
Mhm.
but I went the route of like, companies coming to us because they really want a professional, creative video, photo, and make them stand out from a brand standpoint on social media. So before I keep going, what is, does
No,
that?
that's yeah, no, that I love that. I mean, lots of questions, but I mean, I've seen stuff with, I think the Phillies and maybe the Eagles and like all sorts of just like really cool stuff. And it's an interesting angle to take. I mean, and like you said, I think there's s- certainly tons of greenfield with like analysis using drones, but that's like you said, like you almost need to have you have to be a water tower inspecting expert company
Yeah,
that
like
uses
a
the
company.
drone, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So but going the creative route and then like learning it yourself is pretty impressive. I mean, the videos look awesome. How do you plan on scaling that?
We're in the process right now. So I actually have another drone pilot starting next Monday. And then I have an editor that probably will start within the next month too. Right now, currently, I've been historically doing everything. I mean, I do have a marketing assistant, I do have another full time drone pilot, and then I have like a creative producer, jack of all trades type of subcontractor that I use that's, on retainer. But in general, I need to get like this market squared away, I would say, in terms of like building my team. Right now, we have, almost 20 construction projects going every month. We have, requests with all different types of industries, like whether it's a nonprofit that is looking for like right now, currently, what's really hot and why we're really busy is the city's lighting up green. And like, what's the best way to capture that? And it's
Hmm.
through a drone. So like we have a lot of companies and businesses coming to us saying like, hey, our building's being lit up, or hey, like this venue's being lit up. Can you film that? So, a lot of different avenues of industry within just this market. I mean, we dabble in New Jersey and New York City and Baltimore as well, but not, not as much. The idea of scaling for me is more so once I get this editor and other pilot into place, I can then look from a geographic, standpoint, whether it's Nashville, Florida, out west,
Just pick
and
somewhere nice. You just got to pick the nicest place where you want to go spend some time, right?
yeah,
I think that's the rule of thumb. Yeah, those are all
exactly.
very nice places. No, it's so funny. I tell this story so often. I actually told it I think yesterday. There's a guy who told me that he wanted to be the business connections guy of Rochester, New York. And on its face, I thought that's kind of dumb. Who wants to be that? And then I like as it sat with me, I'm like, that's genius, right? Like you have to own your backyard. Like you have to own the place that you're close to. Like why would you just spread out and try to like go everywhere when there's so much opportunity for like not just face to face but for conferences and networking. And oh,
Yep.
by the way, even cold stuff is easier because you're in the same. One of my most successful campaigns I've ever run was a Go Birds campaign in 2022 where like the leading subject line was go birds, like, and like everybody opened it, right? Because like you're one of them. And I love that
Yep.
approach of like owning this market first and kind of being the go-to drone company. Is that what you got? Do you consider yourself a drone company or more of like a media company or what?
Yeah. So I get this question a lot. I mean, I've branded ourselves for the company for a few different reasons that I'm not going to go into, but as a drone company, so drone service provider. But when it really comes down to it and you dive into the business, it's more so like a production company that specializes in drones, I would
Yeah,
call
yeah, that makes sense. That I would, in my head, that's how I feel it after talking to you. I mean, it is the secret sauce is both, right? It's like it's a
it.
combination of using drones with some really cool production. That's seems like a really cool combo. How long you been running the business? How long ago did you start?
I started the LLC in 2018. I left my full-time job when my first son was born. So it's an easy milestone for me in terms of remembering, but it's, around like 3 years, 3 years.
I tell everybody
Come,
the same thing. I tell everybody the same thing. I gauge my life based on when my kids were born. It's like
yeah.
it's the easiest thing to remember. Who was your first customer back then? Do you remember?
First customer all the way back then was a company, a real estate company called SFA Investments. Owned a bunch of office properties. And, at that time back then, through my wife, through a friend of a friend, got to talking about drones. And he was like, I'd love to film all of, our properties. So we did that. And he was truly, I would say, my first real client besides like print sales and like little jobs. But yeah.
Well, we talked about it a little bit. So that's your first customer, and like, who is your customer today? Like, who is your ideal customer today, and like, how has that changed, over time?
So it's very similar to my first customer that I had, but I would say that wasn't the norm. After I got that first customer, really the how you break into this market and what a lot of people do that are freelancers or starting their own thing is going after like residential real estate. Because agents are always getting new houses and they need drone photos of the house. Like if you don't have a drone photo of the house on Zillow, like we're not sure what you're doing. So a lot of people go after that. I had a decent amount of realtors, when I first started. Wasn't a big fan of that market
How much money
particularly.
are you making off of those? How much are you making per pop off a photo for a real
I
estate
mean,
thing?
I know guys that are doing it for like $200
Okay.
and videos for 500 or 1,000. I mean, it really depends on who you're, engaging with. A lot of the guys that are trying to break into the market will do it for free,
Right.
uh, to just build their portfolio. And, I did that too. I mean, I used to, um, I would go around the construction sites and just film them and, send it to the GC and be like, hey, this is what we do. And, I still have some of those clients to this day. But yeah, I mean, that market isn't, for a variety of reasons, houses not being, ready to be filmed, or the landscaping crews out, or the owner's going to be there now on Tuesday. Can you come Wednesday? And just a very volatile, not, in my opinion, kind of the juice isn't worth the squeeze on that. But that is where you start to build your brand, so, and it's an easy, entry point to get into. So we don't do any residential real estate right now. It's kind of, you know, we're in talks with, potentially, like when you talk about scaling, like potentially getting into that division with somebody else who might join the team. But as of right now, like my current customer, like I'm looking at the newest development that was just built in Philly,
Hmm.
or a major event like the Eagles or the Phillies, or, like Live Nation, who covers all of the venues, the city of Philadelphia, Visit Philly, really clients that, aren't, how do I put this, with true projects, not just like filming a house, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
truly making, some of these are like really big productions. They could be, $20,000. We could have actors. We could have, people on set that are staging it. We could have ground cameras, drones flying, like there's really a lot that you can do with it versus like just taking a photo of a house, you
Right.
know?
No, I love that. That's
So
great. I mean, I I think maybe you're too modest to say it, but you've outgrown some of that stuff. I think at this point, right? You've got you need the bigger stuff because it's not worth your time to spin it up, and you could be making more money doing bigger, better things, right? So, well, I feel like we could talk all day, but I have one more question for you, non-business related, non-drone related. If you could do anything on earth and you knew you wouldn't fail, what would it be?
knew I wouldn't fail.
Yep.
I would say start my own company, but
Done
I've
that and
already,
you haven't you've done that and you haven't failed. So I think
yeah,
that's like twice disqualified.
yeah. I don't know. Repeat the question again.
Man. See, I think some people just are just begging for a lifeline at this point when
Yeah.
I ask, and I just let them flounder a little bit because it's like, it's something you have to think on the fly. If you could do anything on earth and you knew you wouldn't fail, what would it be?
I'd say play professional sports for
There you
sure.
go. All right.
Yeah.
See, I've gotten that one before. Yeah. Any sport in particular?
If I got to pick, I would probably pick golf.
Okay.
You could
All right.
play it the longest. If, for the true love of the game would be, like the quarterback of the Eagles, right?
All right, there you go. See, now we got to it eventually. The quarterback of the Eagles is a
Yeah.
great answer and very fitting for this weekend. So, no, I love your work, man. I love the story. It's a cool kind of intro into business that I think a lot of people like are afraid to do. And you tried some stuff and you figured stuff out and it worked and you're growing and I see you all over the place. So I wish you the best of luck. I will continue to support you. How can people find more about you if they heard something they want to talk to you about today or Elevated Angles if they want to reach out to you guys?
You go to our Instagram, elevated.angles, shoot us a DM, or you could send an email to info@elevatedangles.com.
Beautiful. We'll link it in the bio as well. All right, man. Have a great weekend. Go
Okay.
Birds. And I'll
Learn.
talk to you soon. All right, man. See you, buddy. Later.
That's it.